Shivoham, Ashok Maheshwari and Suman, Shivoham, welcome. Mutkula Anand, Amma, Hitkari, Shikha, Sudeep, welcome to the call and Shivoham to you all. Chandresh, Shivoham, Rajaratnam, Veena, Karan, Nipun, Kishan, Ashok and Hema, Siva, and the rest of you who I cannot see on the call. I think there are many more of you on the call. I welcome you on this call, a call which is interesting today. You admit it. A call titled Mind versus Intellect. Just now, my mind muted myself. Just now, my mind muted my own call. And this is why we say the mind is a monkey and there's a constant war. मैंने खुद को mute कर दिया, then I have to unmute myself. But this is a war. Constantly there's a war. We human beings don't realize that there is this war. And we have to today, in today's call, this call is meant to enlighten us on this war. In the journey of enlightenment, there are many things to be enlightened about. Who am I? Why am I here? And there are many subjects. And this, when we win this war, we win the war against misery, against suffering. We human beings, we are constantly suffering. How do we win this war? We win this war by realizing there's a war within the mind and the intellect. Some people don't even know the difference between the mind and the intellect. So today we are going to cover all these points. What is this war? Who is having the war? And as the call moves forward till the question time, you can ask me questions, any question regarding the mind and the intellect. And this is my personal experience on how there is this war deep within us. We all have this war. So let us quickly move forward on the discussion today. To be enlightened, we have to win the war within. Because if we don't win the war within, then the mind is creating darkness. The mind is creating a shadow. The mind is creating so much misery inside. Therefore, if you want enlightenment, these Zoom calls are all about enlightenment. If you're looking for enlightenment, the key to enlightenment is to win this war within. Who is fighting the war? When there's a war within, when I'm saying, Mr. Hitkari, there's a war within you. Ashok Maheshwari, there's a war within you. Right? Each one of you, Sudeep, Bhargava, you are having a war within you. Who is fighting that war? That war is between your mind and your intellect. The mind is pushed by the ego. It becomes the me. The intellect is pushed by the consciousness. The intellect is driven by the consciousness, but we don't understand that there's this war that's going on. What is the war all about? You know what is the war all about? Let me share with you. It's about the mind. You know what the mind is doing? It's shooting thoughts. The mind is constantly, just like in a war, they are shooting bullets. In a war, they are shooting bullets. The mind is shooting thoughts. You know how many thoughts? 50,000 thoughts a day. The mind is shooting. The mind is constantly shooting. 50,000 thoughts a day. That's 50 thoughts a minute. The mind is shooting. It is more dangerous than a nuclear war. Where you and me are concerned, nuclear war is not important. We are more bothered about the war within us. The war which is being attacked by the mind. The mind is our enemy. The mind is constantly fighting this war. But we don't even realize it. We don't even know that our biggest enemy is our own mind. हमारा जो मन है, मन एक दुश्मन है. सबसे बड़ा दुश्मन. Huh? So this is the problem. The mind and the ego, what does it do? It becomes me. It acts like me. And if it defeats us from achieving our goal, What does it defeat us from doing? To realize the truth that we are the soul. The mind defeats us from this goal of realizing we are the soul. That is the challenge in life. Our biggest challenge in life is this, to realize the truth. What is the truth? I am not this, I am that. We've had several, now many of you are become familiar with the topic on the Zoom calls. But it's not enough to be familiar. We have to win the war. We have to win the war against the me, the mind, and the ego. The mind is the commander. The mind is driving this battle. Like I said, 50,000 thoughts a day. Mind is creating fear. Mind is creating worry, stress, anxiety, fear of death, fear of COVID. The ego is creating anger, hate, revenge, jealousy. So, let me start by telling you how there was a man. He went to his guru and he told his guru, what is the problem? Mind is very important. Mind is the king. It's everything. The guru said, no, be careful of your mind. The mind is the most dangerous thing. So he asked the guru, how do you say the mind is the most dangerous thing? So the guru told him the story. It's called the Rat Man. Have I told the story of the Rat Man? Have I told you? Rat Man? No. The story of the Rat Man goes like this. So the guru told him there was once a man who thought he was a rat. Admi samjha main chooha hu. So what that man used to do, every day in the night, he used to sleep with his wife and he used to tell his wife, I am a rat. And he would come and he would say, hello, rats, darling. He would behave like he's a rat. He's a big mouse, like a Mickey Mouse. He would say, I am Mickey, you are Minnie. He would keep on acting like mouse because I don't know, he was inspired by Mickey Mouse or what. फिर रात को वो उठता था, वो फ्रिज में जाता था. वो फ्रिज खोलता था. He used to open the fridge and look for cheese. He used to say, the rat wants the cheese. So this lady became very embarrassed. This lady said, how can I have my husband who's behaving like a rat? He thinks he's a rat. So she took him to a psychiatrist. And when she took him to a psychiatrist, the psychiatrist made him understand, hello, mister, you are not the rat. The psychiatrist showed the photograph. Ye चूहा hai, ye आदमी hai. चूहा 4 पैर पे चलता है, आदमी 2 पैर पे चलता है. चूहा के पास पूंछ है, चूहा has tail, you don't have tail. चूहा has whiskers, the rat has whiskers, you don't have. One session, second session, third session, fourth session, over. Finally, the man agreed, okay, thank you, sir. Now I understand I am not a rat. I am a man. So the wife was very thankful. She paid the final fees. The doctor asked the man, any more questions? The man said, yeah, no problem. I have no questions. But one small question. I know I am not a rat. My wife knows I am not a rat. You know I am not a rat. But when I go home, opposite my home, there's a gutter. In the gutter, there's a big fat cat. Now that big fat cat used to chase me every day. Who will explain to that cat that I am not a rat? And so the doctor knew that the problem is as it was in the beginning, because the mind of the man did not understand. The mind is like a dog's tail. The mind again and again, it makes us suffer. How much ever you make the mind understand. You tell the mind, I am not the body. Mind will say, okay, tomorrow it will say you're the body. The mind, you keep on telling the mind, whatever you tell the mind, you tell the mind, I am not Chandresh. Chandresh is my name. Tomorrow when you meet somebody, what do? You say, hello, main Chandresh hu. I am Chandresh. Why do you say it? Because your mind cannot stop saying it. Mind is programmed like that. So friends, unless we win the war against mind and ego, me, we will suffer, we will die, and we will be reborn again and again. Remember this, you will be reborn and again we will suffer. We will be human beings. We don't understand the meaning of life. We don't understand. We think, okay, death is the end, finished. No, what happens after death? Death is not the end. Death is the bend. The body dies. What do you say when somebody dies? You look at the person and say, "Arey kahan gaya? Ram Babu kahan gaya? Arey Ram Babu chal base. Kahan gaye? Arey wo to chal base." You say, कहाँ गए? वो तो गए होंगे स्वर्ग में गए होंगे नरक में गए होंगे. We don't know where's Ram Babu. बोलते नहीं बोलते कि राम बाबू वो तो he expired, he departed, he left, but where did he go? He moved on. Correct. So my friends, we human beings, we are not able to make the mind understand the meaning. What is the meaning? What is the meaning of this life? Because the mind is not agreeing to what we read, we understand. So how do you calm the mind? You calm the mind through silence, through meditation. It's very simple. Some of us don't understand the meaning of silence. Why should we be silent? The only way to reduce your stress, your anxiety is silence. You train the mind to go slow. But unfortunately, we think silence is useless. I used to often tell my guru, what is the use of being silent? Waste of time. No. If you have a stress in your life, if you have anxiety, if you're living with fear, if you have any worry, what's the best way to overcome it? The best way to overcome it is silence. You have to learn to be silent. It's very important. It's a simple challenge. But we human beings don't accept silence. We don't want to slow down the pace of our mind. It's a simple challenge. Why? The mind is a monkey. The mind is a monkey which is constantly jumping. We have to make the monkey into a monk. By now, I think you should know it by heart. How do you make the monkey into a monk? You know it, right? M-O-N-K-E-Y. You cut the tail. What is the tail? E-Y. You cut the tail. E-Y means what? Ever yearning, ever yelling. What is the mind doing? All the time. Ye chahiye, wo chahiye, I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that. The mind is ever yearning, ever yelling, going on talking, going on talking, going on talking. That's why very often we make foolish mistakes. We make foolish mistakes and then we say, I'm sorry. Why do we have to say, I'm sorry? Why do we make foolish mistakes? We behave foolishly because of our mind. Our mind makes us react. Instead of being able to respond, we don't respond. What's the difference between responding and reacting? It's gone on. What is the difference between responding and reacting? When you react by the mind. When you respond with the intellect. So most of us, we don't respond, we react. And then we say, I'm sorry. How often you find yourself saying sorry? Very often. Why did you make the foolish mistake? Because of the monkey. The monkey is jumping, constantly jumping. But if you train the intellect, then the monkey stops its monkey business. This is our challenge. In the scriptures, they say the most important weapon of our life, the most important weapon is the intellect. It's called Viveka Chudamani. The intellect is the most important weapon because it's through the intellect that you control the mind. If you do not control the mind, if you do not activate the intellect, the mind not only behaves like a monkey, it makes you a donkey. The mind will continue and continue and continue. It will jump from thought to thought. It will take you to the past, then it will take you to the future. It keeps on jumping. And as it keeps on jumping, it makes us miserable. So this is a challenge. The challenge for us is to win this war. The weapon to win this war is the intellect. So many people ask the question, oh, how do you use the intellect? Well, that is exactly how to win the war. You have the intellect, but you don't use the intellect. So you kill the mind before the mind kills you. What happens in a war? Any war, what happens? It's wartime. You kill the enemy. If you don't kill the enemy will kill you. In any war, it's a matter of shooting. Who is going to shoot? So if you kill the enemy, fine. If you don't kill the enemy, you're dead. So it's up to us. Are we going to kill the enemy or are we going to be dead? Friends, this is an idea which I hope to write a book. Many people ask me, what is the book you've written on this, mind versus intellect? I believe it's a good concept to write a book, because the mind versus the intellect, the war continues all the time. All the time. The mind is causing ignorance. What is the mind doing? Through the thoughts, it creates Maya. Maya is the cosmic illusion. It projects the myth. It hides the truth. It is our own mind. It's our own mind that is giving into Maya. But we don't even realize it. We don't realize, and we suffer, we regret, we live in the darkness. It's for us to first of all realize, do you even know there's a war inside you? This is what makes you unhappy. Sometimes you're happy, sometimes you're unhappy, right? What is the cause? The cause is the war inside. If your mind is defeating you, you're unhappy. If your intellect is in command, you're happy. The challenge is to be able to keep the mind, the monkey, tied. Sometimes you leave a monkey inside your house and see what the monkey does. Have you tried? A monkey came into my office 2 days back. He broke the shower. He ate all the papayas. He jumped. The monkey created havoc. Abhi aaya hai? Bandar aapke ghar mein kabhi aaya hai? Let's just open the door sometime when monkey is there and leave a few bananas on the table. You will understand what the monkey does. But the bigger than the monkey that comes into your house is the monkey that is the mind. The monkey that is the mind creates havoc. All the time it's creating havoc. All the time it's making us suffer. And we don't even realize it. We don't realize that we are living in ignorance. We are living in darkness. What does the mind do? It becomes the me, along with the ego. How does the mind defeat us? How does the mind cause suffering? Through the me, M-E. Don't you say me? Bring me coffee. Bring me Ricola. You keep on saying, bring me, correct? Yeah, because you keep on saying, because it's mind and ego, me, all the time it's saying me, me. Then what does it do? The mind and ego becomes the me and creates karma. You know what's karma? Karma is action. Action is not created by the body. It belongs to the mind and ego. Although it looks like the body is doing the action and the body is doing the action. But who's driving the action? Who's creating the karma? It is the mind and ego, me. And this mind and ego, it gets caught in samsara. What is samsara? Samsara is the world of illusions. The mind and ego, because of karma, it comes back again and again. It takes a new body. Some people think we go to heaven and we go to hell. Where is heaven and hell? Heaven and hell is right here on earth. You experience it when you take rebirth. So don't think heaven and hell is somewhere else. Jannat, Jahannam, Swarga, Narka is right here on earth. Every day we experience it. But the question is, who is causing it? The causing of this problem, this hell, is the mind. The mind and the ego as it takes a rebirth. The mind and ego makes us believe that we are the body, we are the mind, we are the ego, so we suffer. How much ever you may tell your mind, correct? How much ever you may tell the mind, I am not the body will die. How much ever you tell the mind that the mind is an illusion, the mind is not willing to agree. Because the moment the mind agrees, the mind dies. The moment the mind we realize that we are not the mind, it is the end of the mind. So the mind fights very hard because the mind wants to exist. And the mind keeps on saying, me, mind and ego, me. So this is what causes our suffering. You know who suffers in this world? The body suffers. The body suffers physical pain. The mind suffers misery. The ego suffers agony, anger, hate, revenge, jealousy. Why? What is the reason? The reason is because of the mind. The mind is causing this. A drop of sugar. The mind is causing this. So it's up to us to be able to transcend the mind, transcend the ego. That is the challenge in today's call. If you want enlightenment, we have to realize the truth. To realize the truth, you have to kill the mind. As long as the mind is there, you can't realize the truth. The mind acts like an enemy. It blocks you. The mind will make you say, no, but my religion tells me like this. The Bible tells like this. The Bhagavad Gita tells like this. The mind will keep on quoting certain things to stop you from the realization of the truth. And as long as we let the mind control, we are in trouble. So friends, this is the biggest war in our life. The biggest war in our life. Not between Russia and America. Not between religions. Not between political parties. No, the biggest war in our life where you and me are concerned. We are not bothered whether BJP is having a war with somebody or not. No, we are not bothered. The biggest terrorist in our life is the mind. And the war is between mind and the intellect. If you want enlightenment, this Zoom call is for what? The Zoom call is very simple, right? The Zoom call is to help people and get enlightened. Why do we want enlightenment? Because there's darkness. Who is causing the darkness? It is the mind. Very often I find myself to behave like a fool. And I realize it was my emotional decision. People often tell you, whenever there's a war between the head and the heart, don't let the head take a decision. Don't take the heart to take a decision. What does it mean? Don't be emotional. Sometimes we are emotional. We don't use our intellect to make a decision. And because we don't use our intellect, we lose. People don't even know the difference between mind and intellect. You know the difference? What is the difference between mind and intellect? Do you know? Just like our hand. Is it this side of the hand and this side of the hand same or different? It's like heads and tails in a coin. There are two sides of the coin. The mind and the intellect are two sides of the coin. In fact, the subtle body, in our body, we have got the gross body. In the gross body, there's bone, skin, blood, heart, kidney. But in the subtle body, we have M-I-M-E, mind, intellect, memory, and ego. This is taken in detail in the scriptures. They talk a lot of mind, intellect, memory, and ego. This is a subtle body. The body that you can't touch and feel. It's intangible, invisible, but it exists. It's like a computer. The computer has hardware and software. So the body has got hardware, which is this, what you can see, what you can touch. You can touch your face, right? You can touch your hand. This is the hardware. But what about your software? Your software is the mind, the intellect, the memory, and the ego. Today, we are only discussing about the mind and the intellect. We are not talking about the memory and the ego. They are different aspects. But the mind and the intellect, they are constantly having a war. The mind puts a thought, the intellect stops the thought. The mind tries to push and make us, the mind acts as a thought, it becomes a feeling, it becomes an action. The intellect says, no, this is wrong, don't do it. So this is the constant war between the mind and the intellect. The mind tells us, this is me, this is my body, this is me. The mind will say, my father died. I'm putting a photograph and praying every day. The intellect will ask the question, why? Father died, the story is over. The intellect will ask questions. The mind will just follow. The mind doesn't ask questions. The mind just blindly believes. And therefore, because the mind is blindly believing, we are following the mind just like we follow the herd. And when we follow the herd, we don't fly like a bird in the sky, high up in the sky to realize the truth. You know, because of the mind, we are reborn in the samsara again and again and again. If you overcome the mind, you can have liberation, moksha, enlightenment, nirvana. How do you get men? How do you get enlightenment? How do you get moksha? How do you get nirvana? What is the way? There's only one way: to win the war against the mind. The mind is constantly making you believe, I want to eat this, I want to wear this dress, this is my money, this is my daughter, this is my bungalow, this is my son-in-law. Who's saying all this? The mind. When you transcend the mind, you realize I am the Atma, I am the divine soul. Then at death, there is no rebirth. At death, there is liberation. There is unification with the divine. We have freedom from all kind of suffering. How do you, some people again and again will ask the question, but how? Who's asking the question how? The mind. You have to sharpen the intellect. The challenge is to sharpen the intellect. But like I said, people think that mind and intellect is the same. No, the mind and intellect is not the same. Mind is different. Intellect is different. The mind produces thought. The intellect discriminates. Like I said, the mind will only react. The intellect responds. So what do? How often do you react and then you regret? Oh, I feel so bad. I did like this. I feel so bad. Don't it happen? Doesn't happen. You do something, then you feel bad. Why are you feeling bad? Because you didn't do it. Your mind did it. Your mind is such a rascal. In fact, the book calls mind is a rascal. The book. Why did we say the mind is a rascal? Because the mind is a rascal. It's a monkey. It keeps on jumping and jumping and doesn't let us remain in peace. It robs our peace of mind. It creates suffering. So friends, the way to transcend suffering, the way to escape from this samsara is liberation. The way to liberation from rebirth, there's only one way to liberation from rebirth. It is realization. We are not the body, the mind. The only way to realization is to win the war. So today it's a new concept. Many of you, you're thinking, ye kya naya jang aa gaya? Huh? What is this new war? Oh, you don't even know it. All you realize is you realize stress. How many of you feel stress? Do you feel stress? Who's creating the stress? Who's creating the stress? It's your own mind. Your mind is bombarding at you rockets, bullets. What are the bullets? They are thoughts. The mind is going on shooting like an AK-47. Going on shooting thoughts. What are the thoughts doing? What are the thoughts doing? The thoughts are creating fear. COVID, I will die. Thoughts are creating worry, stress, anxiety, anger. So for example, what does the mind do? The mind gets angry. The mind picks a piece of burning coal and throws it to somebody else and wants to burn their face, but it burns your own hand. What the intellect says, no, why should I burn my hand? Why should I burn my hand? So therefore, it is very important for us to activate the intellect and to transcend the mind. So today's Zoom call is on this important subject, to win the war within. The ultimate goal of life, liberation, unification with God, liberation from realization. Realization can only happen if you win the war with the mind. Because if you don't win the war with the mind, then you will only suffer and suffer and suffer. So to put the thoughts together, to be enlightened, if you want enlightenment, activate the intellect. Do you even know that you have an intellect? Do you know? Do you know that the most important weapon in your life, the biggest treasure, is Viveka Chudamani? Viveka Chudamani, written by Adi Shankara, means the treasure of the intellect. The most important, powerful weapon you have in your life is your intellect. The intellect has the power to discriminate. You have to use the power of the intellect. Like I said, it's like a machine gun. You shoot the mind. When the mind starts shooting thoughts, you take your intellect and you shoot the mind. You kill the mind before the mind kills you. You cut the tail of the monkey, M-O-N-K-E-Y. You cut the tail, make it a monk. The moment you transcend the mind and ego, me, you win the war. You are liberated. You are united with God. That is the ultimate goal. My dear friends, every week we come with a topic. Next week's topic is very interesting. Next week's topic is the law of attraction. I've written a new book. What is the new book? I'm putting the poster up for your convenience. Look deeper. Look deeper. Discover the secret within the law of attraction. What is this law of attraction? Next Friday, we are talking of what is the secret in the law of attraction. It is not the law of attraction. Don't think it is the law of attraction that works. It's the book is ready. In fact, I will be able to send this book to you after the call. Discover the secret within the law of attraction. Look deeper to realize the truth. So friends, that's our next Friday topic. Because what the mind says, Itkariji, mind what it says, you want mangoes? Just sit down and say mangoes, 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 and mangoes will come to you. Aise ho sakta hai? This is what the law of attraction says. Sudeep will sit down and say, Sudeep will say, Manas Sarovar, Manas Sarovar, Manas Sarovar, and you'll reach Manas Sarovar. Law of attraction is not that. The law of attraction works in a different way. But people have made the law of attraction a joke. So next week, we are going to be talking on the law of attraction, next Friday. But today, let us get back to the main subject. And once again, quickly have a question and answer session on mind versus intellect. What is this mind? What is the intellect? Mind is not intellect. Intellect is not mind. So if you think that they are the same, you are mistaken. Your mind is your enemy. Your intellect is your best friend. When will you realize this? You have to be able to realize that the mind is different from the intellect. The mind is creating thought, but the intellect is discriminating thought. The mind is reacting. The intellect is responding. The mind is making rash decisions. The intellect is making calculated decisions. The mind is bombarding you with thoughts. The intellect is protecting you from fear, worry, and anxiety. Therefore, when you are dealing with this war within, realize there is a war. Many of you don't even realize there is a war inside you. That's why you're losing your peace of mind. Why do you lose your peace of mind? Because of this. So let us get on to question and answer. The first question I have today, we have some interesting questions today. The first question is from Facebook, Bharti, how to silence the mind. Interesting, excellent, right? How to silence the mind. You know what does the mind do? It's jumping. Wrong, wrong, wrong. So, Bharti, the first way to silence the mind is silence. Shut off the senses. What triggers the mind? What triggers the mind is your eyes. You see something and you have a thought. You hear something, thought. You smell something, you taste something, you touch something. So the best way to silence the mind is to switch off the 5 doors to the mind. The 5 doors are the 5 senses. The 5 senses that trigger the mind. If you switch off these 5 senses, if you be in shant, if you be in silence, it's called meditation, right? If you remain in silent meditation, you would be able to silence the mind. The challenge is for you to get into that state of silence, to be quiet. Very few people are able to get into that state because they believe, no, you can't. The mind is so violent, the mind is so aggressive that people are not able to get into the state of being silent. So, Bharti Ramesh, silence the mind through silence, sometimes through kirtan, through bhajan, through prayer, through contemplation, through concentration on a particular one thought Patanjali gave the 8 steps: Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. 8 steps to consciousness. But you can't reach that state of divine consciousness unless you first learn to basically silence the mind. So, Bharti Ramesh, if you want your mind not to jump like a monkey, sit with Shanti. Oh, try to sit in silence, Sant. Every morning, every night, start 15 minutes or 30 minutes. Can you spend 15 minutes? Some people say 15 minutes. How I can spend 15 minutes in silence? You know, out of 1440 minutes in a day, we don't spend 2 minutes in silence. Think about it. How much time you spent in silence today? Anybody? How much time you sat in silence today? Most of us are struggling to sit for 5 minutes. So we have to learn to sit for 15 minutes morning, 15 minutes evening. If possible, 30 minutes morning, 30 minutes evening. Silence. Next question from Prabhakar. I think mind is shaped by what we consume and intellect is sharp by guru. No. Mind is shaped by everything. Mind is shaped by your senses. Mind is shaped by your habits, your beliefs, and everything. But the intellect is a tool of discrimination. The guru can help you sharpen the intellect, but the intellect is already sharp. So Prabhakar, it's not like the intellect is manda nahi hai. Intellect is already sharp. You don't need a guru to sharpen the intellect. If you have a guru, good. He will help you to transcend the mind. But the intellect given by God is already sharp. Each of us has a sharp intellect. Unfortunately, the intellect is become dull because of the mind. The mind makes the intellect dull. The guru can help. No doubt the guru can help in the process of moving forward. Nitin Shukla. Can we say that the thought of the mind is the language of our intelligence and be associated with us, can be associated to our soul's belief? Now, this is a very complicated statement, Nitin Shukla. But let us try to understand what you are trying to say. Okay? The thought of the mind is the language of our intelligence. No, the thought of the mind is not the language of your intelligence. The intelligence is the one that discriminates the mind. When the mind comes forward with a thought, the intellect is like a sword. Therefore, the thoughts of the mind is not the language of the intellect. And the soul's belief, the soul has no belief. The soul is the divine. So we should, I think, these are some concepts you need clarity. Nitin Shukla. I am not sure if you have been there on a call before, Nitin Shukla. But the soul is just a power. The soul is the power that gives life to Jeev Atma. The soul is not part of the mental process. The soul is Atma. Atma is Paramatma. So please understand that. From Sarah, we have a question from Sarah. Do the souls keep coming back to earth till they are enlightened? Sarah, understand the concept of soul, Sarah. Soul is a power. Soul is just like, it's like a balloon. Suppose in a balloon, I sometimes give this example. I don't think you have seen this example. This balloon has got no life. Correct? It's a dead balloon. Can you see? Now, suddenly this balloon is full of life. So we are like this balloon. Correct? We are like this balloon. Now, the soul in us is like the air in the balloon. When the soul goes out like this, where the air went? Where's the air gone from this balloon? Everywhere. So where does the soul go? The soul also goes and merges with the soul that is everywhere. Your soul and my soul is the same. We think your soul and my soul is different. No, it's the same. It's just like the current in your house. The current to your tube light, the current to your AC, the current to your hairdryer is different current or the same current? It's the same current from the supply. I don't know what you call it in Pakistan. A Pakistan electricity board or what you call it, I don't know. Okay? Or Lahore electricity board or Islamabad electricity board, whatever you call it. Huh? So the power comes from one source. So do the souls keep coming back to earth? No, the soul doesn't come back. Who comes back? I'm giving the answer to you. Who comes back? Not your body. The body returns to dust after death. But the me, M-E, the mind and the ego comes back, not the soul. The soul goes back into the supreme energy, and when you are reborn, it comes, the mind and the ego comes alive with the soul. I hope I'm able to explain to you, but if you're not clear, please send me a message on my number and I'll explain to you further. So that is from Sarah. Dr. Kulveer Singh. Tulsidas says, Tulsi wo jo moor bhale, jinko nahi koi gyan. Ignorance seems to be bliss. The more I dived into query about the process, the more I got puzzled. Wo jo moor bhale, jinko nahi koi gyan. Okay, so Dr. Kulveer Singh gives us the Chaupai by Tulsidas. Thank you, Dr. Kulveer Singh. Yes, ignorance is bliss. Some people think it's better to be ignorant. Fine, you be ignorant, but you will suffer. You will suffer as you will come back again and again and again. We die, then we will be reborn, then we die, then again we will be reborn, then again we will die. How does one attain the final goal? The final goal is liberation. The final goal is unification. The final goal is becoming one with the divine. How are we going to attain that ultimate goal? Niharika, what's the difference between intellect and will, which is higher? Good question. The intellect develops a willpower. Just like the mind develops certain habits. You see what happened? We develop habits. You know what are habits? A thought becomes a feeling, becomes an action. When you have repeated action, it becomes a habit. What is the will? When the intellect creates a strong philosophy, when the intellect creates a strong power of discrimination, the intellect creates willpower. Sometimes don't we say somebody has got a strong willpower? What is that willpower? The willpower is created by the intellect. When you constantly, suppose you want to smoke, you feel like smoking, the intellect says no. Again, you feel like smoking, the intellect says no. The intellect develops a willpower. When you don't have a willpower, what happens? The mind makes us slip like a monkey. We fall like a donkey. We do wrong things. Why are we doing the wrong things? Because there is no willpower. Why there is no willpower? There is no willpower because we don't have a well-developed intellect. Therefore, the importance of a well-developed intellect. Many people, as I said, don't even know the meaning of intellect. They don't even know the difference that there's a mind that produces thought. Are all the thoughts good? No, all thoughts are not good. Some thoughts are good, some thoughts are bad. Who decides? Who decides the thought is good or thought is bad? Who decides? It is the intellect. That is what we are talking today. The war within. How do you win this war within? Between the mind that is bombarding you with thoughts. You win the war through the intellect. The intellect has to discriminate. Next question from Nitin Shukla. As you said, it is a computer. Can we say the development of an artificial intelligence represents advancement of humans that we can make souls too? Nitin Shukla, making of a soul is a big thing. Can you make one apple? Can we make one flower? We can make a plastic flower. Can we give life to one butterfly? Where is the question of us making souls? We human beings can make material things. We can make aeroplanes, spacecrafts, submarines. We can make buildings and skyscrapers. But we cannot make what God makes. What God has created is very difficult. That's why man struggles to understand how God created the mountains and the oceans. Can man think of creating an ocean? Can man think of creating the earth? Can human beings make another earth? How will you put an earth in outer space? Is it possible? Who will make the earth rotate? Who will cause all the seasons? So we human beings are sometimes incapable of understanding that we are nothing. We are absolutely nothing. When will we realize the truth? So you can ask me any question on enlightenment. I see some more questions coming, but it's not only to mind and intellect, any question to enlightenment. Dr. Surinder Goyal has a question. The question is this: in the Gita, in Gita, in verse 342, the working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than senses. Intelligence is higher than the mind. And the soul is even higher than the intelligence. By fixing a mind and intelligence in the Atma, we can win over the monkey mind. What is your view on this? It's absolutely correct, no? See, Surinder, this is what Krishna tells Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. The senses can be controlled by the mind. Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says the senses are like the 5 horses. Who controls the senses? It is the reins, the mind. Stronger than the reins is the charioteer, the intelligence, the buddhi. Stronger than the buddhi is the divine soul, the consciousness, the Atma. So the Atma is the one, but what we don't realize is, unless we realize we are the Atma, we cannot do this. This is only possible when we realize, when we have the realization. When there is the realization that we are not the mind, not the body, then only we can realize we are the Atma, we are the divine soul. Till such time, we will suffer. But my view on this, Dr. Surinder Goyal, is 100% is correct. And we must learn to transcend the senses by the mind, transcend the mind by the intellect, transcend the intellect by the soul. This is what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. Lakshmi, how enlightened person will deal with mind and intellect? As you mentioned, both are different. The enlightened person, Lakshmi, the enlightened person will shoot down the mind with a bullet. Every time the mind is behaving like a monkey, like a rascal, the enlightened person uses the intellect, like the sword of the intellect, and cuts the mind. Every time the mind comes, the nonsense thought, intellect cuts it. Intellect discriminates. Like the story of the rat man I told you. That man is still wondering whether the cat opposite will know that he is a rat or not. So this is the problem. Our mind is constantly making a fool of us. Again and again, we are angry, we are upset, we are irritated, we are jealous. Why? Because the mind is not able to be controlled. So how does an enlightened person work? The enlightened person puts the intellect in charge of the mind. When the intellect is in charge of the mind, then the intellect is in command. This is a challenge. What the challenge is again, how to put the intellect in charge of the mind. This is your biggest challenge in life. Next question is from Tiwari, H.K. Tiwari. Knowledge alone is responsible for enlightenment. Therefore, one has to strive to acquire knowledge. How can one achieve contentment in knowledge? No, Mr. Tiwari, I don't know from where you have got this. Knowledge is not alone responsible for enlightenment. If knowledge was responsible for enlightenment, anybody can read a book and become, anybody who's a Jnani, anybody who is a graduate, the masters in university can get enlightenment. No. Knowledge is just the first step. The gurus tell us that when you have knowledge, you need Sravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. You need knowledge, you need contemplation and introspection, and then you need intuition and realization. So Tiwari ji, there are 3 steps. Knowledge is just the first step. Getting knowledge is only first step. After getting the knowledge, you must process the knowledge. You must ask, investigate till you realize the truth. So whatever I tell you also, don't believe it. Whatever I tell you, you question it, you investigate it, you be sure about it. Then you believe it. That is the way, Mr. Tiwari, for us to move forward on the path. If you think only knowledge is enlightenment, no, knowledge is not enlightenment. So one has to strive to acquire knowledge. Yes, you need wisdom. You need the help of a guru. But there's no contentment in knowledge. You ask me, how can one achieve contentment in knowledge? Never. The realized soul is constantly learning something new every day. Every day, the realized soul lives in what is known as Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga means you're united with God and you're connected with the wisdom of the divine. And every day you're learning something new. Every day something special comes your way. So don't think there will be contentment in knowledge. There can be no contentment in knowledge. Ashok Nichani. So the question from Ashok Nichani, when a person is in two minds, to go ahead or not to go ahead, what should he do? Excellent. Ashok, when a person is in two minds, and there are two thoughts, you use the intellect. This is exactly when you use the intellect. The intellect will discriminate. I should do this or I should do that. If you do not use the intellect, then the mind will fool you. The mind will fool you and you will decide through emotion. So how should you decide, Ashok? Not through emotion, through intellectual analysis. So that is the answer. Facebook, Daulat Nichani. When we are doing business, the mind is always in move. How can we keep away from senses? I mean, control senses. Daulat Nichani in Facebook. When you're doing business, the mind is always on the move. Correct. That's why it doesn't let you understand why you are doing business. We earn, we cheat, we do so much finally to leave everything behind. Why is the question not being asked to you? Why? Why am I wasting my life? What is the purpose of life? Some people are doing business till the last day of their death. For what? Why are you earning money? We have to ask questions and we have to realize the truth. Karan Singh is asking a question. What is the question of Karan? So, okay, he has a question here which is not to be read aloud. What do you want to say if someone doing something wrong to our country, to our family, will do nothing because we don't get them? If Pakistan and China sending their terrorists, Indian soldiers should put down guns and do nothing and we'll be enlightened, we'll never shoot them. Okay, we are not here, my dear private questioner, we are not here to discuss about terrorism and about soldiers because this is all called mithya. This is called Maya. We are not here to worry about what one army is shooting the other army because in the end, all this is meaningless. In the end, everybody has to die. We all have to go. Our goal is enlightenment. Our goal is to reach enlightenment. Therefore, I am not able to answer your question because it's not to do with enlightenment. It is to do with politics. It is to do with war between countries and terrorism. So we are not able to answer that question in this forum. So we are going on to the next question from Nipun. I am confused about concept of consciousness. Good question. So Nipun, very relevant question to today's conversation. Either we are flooded with thoughts. Now, as you're listening to me, either you're conscious of the Zoom call or you're busy with some thoughts. It is impossible that any of you have attended the Zoom call today with full consciousness. It is impossible. As you are listening, Rajaratnam, Vageshan, as you are listening to this Zoom call, Girish and Amma, the mind will divert. Veena, did you have full consciousness in the full call? Impossible. Ashok and Hema Nichani, did you have full consciousness? Impossible. So Nipun Shaini, please understand, we have Ashok Maheshwari and Suman Maheshwari. As the call is going on, sometimes they were having consciousness on the call. Sometimes the mind is wandering. So the point is this, man bhatakta hai. Jab man bhatakta hai, hum dukhi hote hain. The mind takes us to fear. The mind takes us to worry. The mind takes us to regret. So Nipun Chayani asked a very good question. I am confused about the concept of consciousness. Consciousness is when you become the witness. You become the observer of the mind. If the mind is jumping like a monkey, no problem. But you watch the mind. The mind is jumping, going from thought to thought, correct? Sarah must be sitting in somewhere in Pakistan. Which place? I don't know you are. Sarah, which place are you in Pakistan? Okay, you type it out. So even though her consciousness is here with us, the mind will jump. It is natural. From Lahore. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah tells us she's from Lahore. So even sitting in Lahore, or you're sitting in Srinagar or Delhi, the mind will wander. It is natural. So Nipun Sayani, the goal of consciousness is not to let the mind wander. The goal of consciousness is to witness the wandering mind, is to watch the mind. That is the ultimate goal. This is called Chit. Sudeep, you're asking me Chit. Chit, Sat, Chit, Anand. Sat, Chit, Anand means you are in the consciousness of Sat. You are in the consciousness of the truth, and it gives you Anand. What is the consciousness of the truth? That there is only this moment. You know which people are happy today? Those who are living in this moment in the Zoom call. You think that there is tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. There is only this moment. Tomorrow will it come, it will be a moment. Who realizes this? The one who is in Sat Chit Anand, Nipun Saini, the one who is conscious of the moment. Life is about moments. Yesterday is gone. Even today is gone. When you are starting this Zoom call 6 p.m. to 7 p.m., that hour is over. You can never get it back. But if you go there, you have lost consciousness of this moment. The challenge is for us to overcome the mind. The challenge for us is consciousness, and consciousness means awareness. Means we should be aware. So don't be confused. Nipun Saini, please concentrate on the subject of consciousness. It is the biggest, the most important gift of your life. What's the most important gift of your life? Consciousness. If you have consciousness, you can win the war against the mind. If you have consciousness, you can activate the intellect. If you have consciousness, you can destroy the mind, the monkey mind. But you have to be in that state of consciousness. Sarah has a question. When we say, any more questions? When we say we carry past life karma, so it's mind and ego carrying all that. Yes, Sarah. Because see, for example, Sarah, you're a person who is alive. You do good and bad. Whatever good and bad you do, it has to come back to you. If possible, it will come back to you in this life. But suppose you die suddenly. That means your account is not settled. But this body will be buried. The body will return to dust. Then there is rebirth. The mind and the ego of Sarah will be reborn in a new body with a new name. It will not be Sarah. You may not be a girl. You may not be in Lahore, Pakistan. You may be in Chicago, United States. I don't know. But you will be reborn in a new body with the karma which belonged to you. The karma will belong to you. If your karma was good, you will be born as Kamala Harris, maybe, and you will be born as vice president. You become the vice president. I'm just giving an example, okay? I don't mean it's good or bad. But some children are born blind. Why a small child is born blind? What did that small child do? Small child, 1 day old. Kya kiya usne? But why the child is born blind? Not because God is cruel. It is because of karma. So this is what we have got to understand. So we have the last question from Ravindran. I hope I answered your question, Sarah. So it is the me, the mind and the ego, and we keep on carrying till we are liberated. The moment we are liberated, we become one with God. There is no karma. There is no rebirth. There is no body. There is no suffering. We are free. So we have a last question from Ravindran. Why some are too fast and aggressive and some are lazy and still cool? City life, village life, which one would you suggest is good? See, nothing is good or bad. City life, village life, some are fast, some are slow, some are lazy. Finally, every human being wants to be happy. To be happy, we have to transcend misery and suffering. How do we transcend misery and suffering? We transcend misery and suffering through realization of the truth. Realization of the truth comes when you overcome the mind. As long as you are living as the mind, my dear Ravindran, whether you are city or village, whether you are lazy or you are cool, whatever you give examples, as long as your mind is a monkey, it will trouble you. Remember, the mind is our biggest enemy. We have not realized, we think the mind is the king, the mind is everything. The mind is our biggest enemy. That's why we are so scared of COVID. That's why we are so scared of coronavirus. Not because of the virus, but because of the mind. The mind creates fear. The mind does not make us intellectually think. Out of 25,000 people dying every day in India, not even 300 are dying out of COVID. Why should I be worried about COVID? No, the mind makes us miserable. The mind makes us unhappy. The mind makes us a prisoner. Therefore, we have to transcend the mind. So, Kulveer Singh says, I saw so many malformed children and makes you feel helpless. Yeah, Dr. Kulveer Singh, we have to realize when we see so many children are blind, are handicapped, are challenged. Our challenge is to realize the truth. So, my friends, every week we have the Zoom call. Why we have the Zoom call? It is like a refresher course for you and for me. Mr. Hitkari, I don't come only to share with you, I come to learn from you. Every time you'll ask me questions, every time you ask me a question, I learn something. You know, every morning I answer 20 questions on Quora, on Yahoo, on Reddit. And every day I feel blessed. Every day there's a new question they ask me. Very interesting question. We have got 22 million views in Quora. 22 million views of our answers in Quora. Because people are asking such interesting questions. And every day is an opportunity for me to learn. And what I learn, I come to you on every Friday and I try to share with you. Like I said, we have finished a book called The Law of Attraction. Next week, we are talking of that. Then we have got Satyam Shivam Sundaram. Have we done Satyam Shivam Sundaram in the Zoom call? I think we have done it. So every week, some new book, some new concept, whatever comes to me, I like to share it with you because my goal is to help you to reach your goal of enlightenment, your goal of being free from misery, of being free from suffering. So you have my number. If any of you wants to ask me a personal question, it's there, 98451 55555. WhatsApp me. I'm not on the call all the time. Every day I reply questions. Every day, whatever questions come in the phone, I reply without fail. And I try my best to share with you my concept of realization. But I am here to learn from you every day, as this journey of life is not just thinking we know everything. Every day we learn something. Every day is a new experience. And we try to move forward. I thank you all for being on this call. Suman and Ashok Maheshwari, Shivoham, thank you. Hitkari ji, Motkula Anand, Shivoham, and thank you for being on this call. Siva, Amma and Girish, Sudeep Bhargava, Veena, Ashok and Hema Nichani, Shivoham, Sara, thank you for being on the call. Siva, Rajaratnam, Krishna Sarma, thank you for joining the call. Sagai Raj, Pratima, Dr. Kulveer Singh, Surinder Goyal, Shivoham, Nipun Shani, Karan Singh, Shikha, thank you, and Shivoham for joining the call. Chandresh and Kishan. Thank you very much. The rest of you, I don't see you all, but God bless you. Look forward to seeing you all on the next call on Friday on the law of attraction. Look deeper to find the look deeper to realize the secret within the law of attraction. God bless you. I thank you.